I've always wondered what made Deltarune fundamentally different from Undertale, yet connected. Undertale's multiple routes inspired fans to make alternate universes, and Deltarune feels like an official what-if story. But what would be the change? I know viewing Deltarune through this lens may not be the right way to analyze it, but if I had to give you an answer, I think that the most important one is that Undertale is a fairy tale about humans and magic monsters, while Deltarune is a legend about light nerds that don't have magic and dark nerds that do. I'm defining magic in both games not just as bullet patterns, or any new concepts introduced in Deltarune, such as dark fountains, but also anything else we were familiar with in Undertale. My reasons for this is that Hometown's library books don't contain any of the same information that Snowdin's books have on magic, bullet patterns, souls, fighting, defenses, or attacking. And I'm also including determination, because it's required to open dark fountains. As of Chapter 4, however, it seems like the Goner NPC in the library might actually know about a book that contains information on the concept of love, or a level of violence. My favorite example of the differences in magic between both games is how in Undertale, Toriel's stovetop is clean, while in Deltarune the stovetop has cinnamon batter on top because Toriel doesn't have fire magic in the light world. This lack of magic feels like less of a difference and more of a tragedy when looking at characters like Mettaton and Mew Mew, who aren't their true selves yet. Maybe because they lack the magic ability to fuse with objects. Napstablook and Shiren seem to float without magic just fine though, so maybe they just haven't found a perfect body yet. However, magic in the light world may be possible. In Chapter 2, while sitting on Chris's couch, Susie suggests the idea of trying to have Rousey and Lancer come over to the light world, and it made me wonder if we'd actually be able to do this. And how would it be possible? Could we bring some of the magic of the dark world to the light world? There are instances where certain things that happen in the dark world affect the light world. In Chapter 4, after sealing the third fountain, we can see that a mess has been made in the church. Candles are knocked over and papers are scattered on the floor, possibly from the fight with the Titan. In the same chapter, we can see that Ten in the light world has been damaged from the hit he took from the knight, probably because it's the Titan too, and the knight and Rousey in Chapter 1 can close grand doors. Berdly's harm in the dark world also persists in the light world. If you win Berdly or Queen's fights with violence, Berdly will hurt his arm, breaking free from Queen's pug, and after sealing the fountain, his arm won't wake up. In the weird route, if you use Snowgrave on Berdly, he will be in a coma in the light world. It seems that taking enough damage in the dark world will cause harm in the light world. What if we wanted to bring the dark world's magic to the light world, though? Spamton is actually our first introduction to this idea. Spamton recognizes that Chris has lost control of their life, and all Chris has to do to be a big shot has something to do with their soul. He tries to use the old machine in Queen's basement, which he calls a heaven-piercing workout-ready body, but it isn't enough, and Spamton concludes that he needs Chris's soul. Chapter 3 Sword Route then sets precedent for a fictional character transcending a layer of reality. Sword Hero walks out of the Dragon Blazers game into the Dark World, and the reason why might be because they were connected to the soul, just like Spamton wanted to be. Later in this same chapter, if you deal enough damage to the Roaring Knight, you'll get a Shadow Crystal and the Black Shard, which are two items that are extremely important when talking about magic in the light world. Shadow Crystals retain some of their Dark World magic in the light world. Using them in Dark Worlds will usually cut through the illusion of darkness and reveal the light world. In Card Kingdom, you get the text, "You held the crystal up to your eye. For some strange reason, for just a moment, you thought you saw toys strewn on the floor." In the light world, the shadow crystals turn to glass, and using it will now instead show you unique illusions, such as when alone you get the text, "You look through the glass. For some strange reason, for just a brief moment, you thought you saw through your hand." Now if we look at the Black Shard, it seems to keep its form whether it's in the dark world or in the light world. A pencil becomes a wooden sword in the dark world, however the Black Shard remains a black shard in the light world. The knight seems to be made up of the same black glass that its black knife is made of, and maybe this is how it's able to enter the light world and seemingly remain unchanged due to being able to carry Undyne, who can lift a car, all the way to the bunker. However, this is a really safe theory, and I think the night is an evolution of this concept of a darkener being able to enter the light world with the power of a lightener soul. I believe the night is some sort of Titan spawn due to its black color and white outline, and is connected to Dessa's soul. I love to point out that this is really reminiscent of how in Undertale, humans and monsters are able to escape the underground and cross through the barrier to the surface if they absorb a soul of the opposite species, such as how Asriel absorbed Kara's soul, or how Frisk needed Asgore's. We don't talk about Undertale's neutral route. I wonder if Deltarune has its own barrier to shatter, and if that means that the dark and light worlds will merge. What I really want to talk about, though, are two important scenes in Chapter 4 that relate to our interest in magic in the light world. Before leaving the holiday house, Carol puts her hand on Chris's shoulder, and the narration says, "You felt something like ice on your shoulder." And then Carol says that you, in all caps red text, are welcome anytime. Carol is talking to us, the player. How does Carol even know about the player? Noelle says that her mom collects heart pillows, and when Chris was little, they take one of those pillows and pretend to rip out their heart. We can also see that in Dessa's walk-in closet, there's a pile of what looks like more red heart pillows. It seems that Carol and Des might have had a fascination with human souls. It's a bit more subtle, but Carol might also have magic in the light world. I think that ice on your shoulder could be from ice magic. It's possible that Carol could also just have cold hands from her house's thermostat only having a cold option. But in the same way Carol's you can be read as Carol talking to Chris and the player, I think this can be read as Carol having cold hands and having ice magic. This leads me into the second scene, which is whatever is going on with Noelle in the weird route. In her room, when we say me, there's a blue hue shift, Chris's hair is being blown by wind, and the snowflakes on Noelle's ceiling start spinning. I think that hearing the player's voice in the light world is enough to make Noelle lose control out of fear and unconsciously use the ice magic that she used in the dark world, which results in a cold wind that causes all of these things to happen. The phone call Chris gets before the Chapter 4 credits changes from Carol as a mysterious voice to just Carol calling Chris normally in the weird route, and she says Noelle's really looking forward to seeing us at the festival. So does Carol know about the weird route too? Surely she had to have noticed her daughter behaving strangely. The thorn in her finger, her red eyes, her smile. Carol might be okay with the weird route happening, either because it doesn't interfere with her plans, or because it acts like a plan B. I think one of the goals of the weird route has to be us making Noelle the angel in the prophecy, instead of Chris. There's a lot of evidence to support Noelle being the angel, but I want to skip over all of that and talk about how everybody can intuit that the thorn ring has something to do with the soul. The color which is used for the effect that comes from equipping the thorn ring to Noelle is red, which is heavily associated with the soul, and the theme of control is something that the soul shares with the weird route. The prophecy glass that says love finds its way to the girl can also be read as romantic love in the normal route, or as the soul and level of violence in the weird route. I want to bring your attention to the song Flashback, which might give us more insight into the holidays in the weird route. When we first hear Flashback in Deltarune, it's after leaving Rudy's hospital room in Chapter 2's weird route, when we are either listening in on Noelle talk to herself or reading Noelle's thoughts about her experience with us in the dark world. The second time we hear it, it's at the beginning of Chapter 3, when Rouse explains that dark worlds are illusions. This is the moment we are supposed to hear this track for the first time, as it isn't listed in Chapter 2's OST, but it's the first song on Chapter 3's. This feels very similar to how you're supposed to find out about Chapter 2's weird route through Chapter 3's sword route. It also appears when Tenna talks about his own backstory. He says that everyone used to gather around him to watch the specials, but then people stopped coming and disappeared one by one, and Des is the first one to disappear. To make extra sure this song is supposed to be for Noelle and her past with dark worlds, let's look for leitmotifs. Flashback appears to contain the Girl Next Door and Lost Girl leitmotif, and the Holy leitmotif, which is the song that plays whenever you are about to steal a dark fountain. So what if the title of this track and its association with these scenes means Noelle's past has something to do with Dark Worlds, and maybe that's how Des even went missing? And what if Des even has something to do with the Weird Route too? Continuing our song analysis, another Weird Route exclusive track is D.OGG, which plays when Noelle realizes the enemy she is about to freeze is Birdly. This song seems to be the rhythm of Raise Up Your Bat when sped up. Could the D in D.OGG stand for Des the same way the title C for Carol's theme might stand for her name? And now the last thing I want to talk about in the Weird Route is something that I've never seen anybody point out. If we think about Noelle in Chapter 4, we see the red dot, which I'm guessing is Noelle's blood on her finger. Then Noelle says, "Thank you." An important piece in this puzzle is Gaster. In Undertale, it seems that the creation that Gaster fell into that shattered him across space and time was a dark fountain, based on entry 17 having the text dark, darker yet darker, and Rouse describing Dark Worlds as the light world becoming darker than dark. If this is what caused him to be a video game secret, then maybe Des falling into a dark world also caused her to be a video game secret, lost in the game's unused code. And if we take a look at the unused dialogue from Chapter 4, we can read, "It's just nothing but pitch black silence, except for the noise. The scratching noise I sometimes hear. This sounds crazy, but even though no one can hear me, when I hear that noise, I feel like someone's listening. Anyone, if you're there, thank you." Des is thanking the player, which is something Noelle does in the Weird Route of the same chapter. Magic and darkness being able to exist in the light world has to be possible, and the holidays might know how, even if it means taking a weird route.